Hey everyone! I wanted to do a video today explaining, well, just showing you some differences in core materials. I have gathered what I have in different core materials. These are all very common fabrics. A couple weeks ago, we did a post where everybody commented with which fabrics they started using and which fabrics they currently use. And I believe this is like the majority of people said they started with one of these or they currently use one of these. So we're going to talk about what the differences are. And I actually cut all of these so that I could take photos of them so that you could see the comparisons in kind of like a quick start absorbency graphic. Because there are plenty of absorbency charts out there. I'm one of those people that has a hard time concentrating on looking at a chart. So I like to make pictures. So I decided it's time. Versatile has been around for 2 years with patterns. It's time to have its own absorbency chart in picture form. So um, yeah, I'll just get into this. The one question I have though is for people who use flannel. Um, so this is flannel. This is diaper flannel from Nature's Fabrics, I think. So that's 6 layers, and I think some people suggest using 8 layers of flannel for a heavy pad. I would not like. I cut 8 layers, and it seems like it would be ridiculously thick. I would not even try sewing that. For the people who do that, I'm wondering like how do you do that? So anyway, um, I am not going to recommend trying to sew 8 layers of flannel unless you sew it in a stepped core. So for the people just joining, I'm just going to go and quickly compare some different fabrics that you can use for your cores. Okay, so that's diaper flannel. I think it's bamboo flannel. This one is flannel that I got yesterday at Joann's. Let me get that to focus. It is their thicker option. When I got this, I didn't realize there were 2 options now. So like the flannel that they print their prints on, that's a little thinner than this, but I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference. So there's 6 layers of this. I would call this a heavy pad if you sew this together. And let me compare that to when I sew a heavy pad, I use 2 layers of 500 GSM Bamboo Fleece or Bamboo Terry. They're pretty much equal. And that's going to be the difference in thickness. That's pretty substantial. It seems like each time you add a layer of fabric, you also have to, it takes up space in between the fabrics, so it gets thick pretty quickly. And then I realized yesterday when I was sewing a pad with flannel, even if you smush all that down, like I did a zigzag over the edge of this just to smush down the edges, it made the pad super thick. So I got the edge to be thin with the zigzag, and I sewed it in the pad, and the pad was super stiff. Let me show you this. So like, there's no flap to this pad whatsoever. And maybe this is normal, but I guess this is only 4 layers of flannel in there. So yeah, that's a problem you'll run into. If you want a super flexible floppy pad, you're not going to be able to have a heavy flannel pad that does that. And I can compare that to a pad made with bamboo fleece or terry. Like, that's the same absorbency based on what's recommended in charts. So, yeah. Not that I'm trying to get you to not use flannel. It's just what surprised me yesterday when I was using it again for the first time in a long time. And I just want to make that note that if you use a bunch of flannel and you don't like the way your pad comes out, don't fret. Like, you could still make pads that you love. with other fabric options. Tracy, you love super heavy organic bamboo fleece. Yes, I love it too. And I don't have 500 GSM bamboo fleece. This is the 400 GSM bamboo fleece. So I would still just use 2 layers of that for a heavy pad. But I have the terry version of what that would be. The terry is just the loops have not been brushed out. That's what the fleece looks like before they brush out the loops, and then it's fuzzy. So these fabrics make very thin, floppy pads. So this is like regular weight bamboo fleece. Here's three layers of that. I would use 3 for a heavy pad. And this is 280 GSM, I believe. If you're on Nature's Fabrics, it's going to say 280 GSM. If you're on Diaper Sewing Supplies, it'll probably just say bamboo fleece. So that's like regular weight fleece. I would say the rules that apply to this apply to other regular weight fleeces like hemp cotton fleece, bamboo hemp cotton fleece. If you just find cotton fleece, it's going to be the same. And if you're going to do a moderate pad, I would do 2 layers of this and then a light pad. And so, yeah, light or liner. If you don't need absorbency, you just need like something to cover your underwear, then don't even bother, just make it coreless. So I hope this is like valuable in some way as a live video. I think the little infographic will make more sense. But I just wanted to introduce these in video form. This is, if you're on Nature's Fabrics site or Kinderelle, this is their 200 GSM bamboo fleece. So this is thinner. I think it's kind of a new fabric. I'm undecided on what I would recommend for this. Probably 4 layers for a heavy pad. 3 layers. 2 or 3 for a moderate. I'd say this is like, if you want a lot of control over how much absorbency is in your pad, then you'd get something thinner and just add more or less layers. Like you got 5 options of absorbencies here. Just call it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 instead of like light, moderate, and heavy. But if you do something like Zorb, how many levels you have? You have 1 and 2. You could do a 3rd layer of Zorb, but I think you would need to do a stepped core with that because I would not enjoy sewing the edge of this down. And if you did sew all 3 layers down together the same width, I think it's going to be stiff. I think some people like stiff pads because it prevents wedgies. But I think a lot of people like to go for thin and floppy and flexible. So just take note of that. If you want it to be stiff so that you don't, like, you're not going to get a wedgie with that. That's for sure. But something like this is so floppy that could, that could just wrinkle up if it doesn't fit properly in your underwear. That's less forgiving for wedgies. So we're getting into technical terms here. So I think that's about all I needed to say. Let me look at Tracy's comments. I haven't tried terry before, but I think I have to now. It looks a lot different than what I thought it would. I was thinking of terry toweling. Let me grab that because I have some that looks like toweling. Okay. This is, oops, sorry. I tried using this. This has got loops on both sides. This is, I think, 500 GSM bamboo terry. So it's looped on both sides. It's considered a woven, so it's not stretchy, and it'll unravel on the edges if you don't overlock the edges. So this bamboo terry only has loops on one side, smooth on one side. This terry has loops on both sides. And I found this kind of difficult to sew because it like shifts around. It didn't add any structure whatsoever to the topper. So that's why I don't use this, but some people might love it. So this is a good option too. Very floppy and flexible. It might offer a little more absorbency because of the loops on both sides. Just, I don't know, it's kind of fluffy. So I think, Tracy, that's probably the terry that you had in mind. Let me check the comments to see if there's any questions. Some people have reactions to Zorb. Yeah, I think I've heard that too. But I see a lot of people talking about Zorb. It kind of looks like felt. And this is Zorb 1. I should have mentioned that. So you don't want to pre-wash that. It'll fall apart in the washer, is what I've heard. So a lot of people are talking about Zorb, so I wanted to mention it and how it compares. I forgot what we were talking about. Microfiber. I didn't think about that. There are probably some people from cloth diaper sewing who would have microfiber on hand. I think microfiber would probably be in the realm of like 400 GSM fleece. I would follow those rules. So 1 layer for moderate, 2 layers for heavy. Right now, I definitely love using just 1 layer of this bamboo terry. I would also use the fleece version of this. Like I would be happy with either one. It doesn't have to be the terry. But one thing to be careful with the fleece and the terry fabrics, if it's smooth on one side and it's got fleece or loops on the other, you have to be careful of this edge right here rolling. This will curl towards the smooth side after it's washed. And if you don't sew that down somehow, it's going to curl up in your pad and you'll have a nice lump in there. So what I do is I just sew it down really close to the edge, and I place the smooth side towards the topper so that I sew it down really close, and then it's just kind of locked in. Like it can't go anywhere, it can't curl, and that seems to work really well. But if you wanted to sew down 2 layers of this, I would place the smooth sides together so that they kind of counteract each other. And so when those smooth sides try to curl, they'll just curl towards each other and they can't really go anywhere, assuming that you stitch it close enough to the edge. You could do a wavy stitch or a zigzag. I also really like a 3-step zigzag along the edge of this. So just something to keep track of. Don't want to like have 2 layers of this and then sew, ½ inch away and then end up with that. Okay, well, I think that's about all the value I have to offer in this video. So I'm gonna go take some pictures of these and put together a little absorbency chart, infographic. So just to explain, my quick start absorbency graphic is just going to include recommendations for light, moderate, and heavy, because I think you should start in one of those 3 options. I wouldn't start with like a super postpartum pad because that's hard to sew, and I think it's at like the extreme end of the spectrum, and most people don't need that much absorbency. So, and the person that needs that much, they're still gonna love having a heavy pad. They can adjust for their next pads. So that's just the starting point. And for light pads, I'm on the fence about whether it needs a core material or not, like any layers at all. So I think that depends on what you're using it for. Like the tail end of your period when you don't know if you're gonna need any coverage at all, that might not even need a core. but if you're using daily liners for like incontinence, you might want a layer of something. So Megan, do you ever mix core materials? I don't, but I would recommend, if you're going to use Zorb, I would recommend pairing it with fleece or terry or flannel or something and put that underneath the Zorb. So the Zorb is super quickly, it absorbs really fast, and then the fleece or flannel will absorb slower and hold on to the moisture so that you can avoid compression leaks. I would put that on the other side. So yeah, that's the one mixture I would recommend. And like if you have one layer of a fleece or terry and you just want to bump up the absorbency a little bit, like you could totally just put a couple layers of flannel on there. So yeah, because the bamboo fleece and terry is more expensive and you can readily pick up some flannel. So that would be a good budget core. If you want the benefits of a floppy pad, just boost the absorbency a little bit, yeah, that's probably another good reason for mixing cores. But okay, those are good questions. And I've probably mixed up all my cores now. All right, thank you for chatting and for your questions, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.